before. Look at what's happening. 12 years ago, Charlie walked onto his first college campus, the very liberal University of Wisconsin at Madison. He set up a card table and put up a sign with 3 words: "Big government sucks." Could you believe that? That's Charlie. That day, Charlie talked to every student who approached him, most of whom were probably quite a bit older than he was. Finally, after many hours, he found the first ever turning point chapter leader. His first year out of high school, Charlie traveled 300 days raising money and taking his message to campuses all over the country. He lived out of his parents' basement, and they actually loved having him there. They loved Charlie. Everybody loved Charlie. And on the couches of friends and supporters, he lived off couches for 2 years, 3 years, then life started getting a little bit different, but he was always the same. For 5 years, he refused to take a paycheck, but day after day, he worked from 5 a.m. in the morning till 11 p.m. in the evening, always. His staff remembers that he wore Walmart jeans and T-shirts from the Goodwill store. Remember the Goodwill store? It wasn't easy, but Charlie wasn't in it for money at all, never has been. Money was never his thing. He was always in it for the mission. As he liked to say even back then, we have a country to save. Just what he did. He'd call me all the time, "Sir, we have a country to save." I said, "Charlie, thanks very much for telling me that. I appreciate it." Charlie volunteered for my 2016 campaign and traveled the nation with my son Don and Eric. I got to know him very well and saw immediately that Charlie was actually a master builder of people. It was Charlie who first started organizing young black conservatives hungry for support and leadership. It was Charlie who stood up for persecuted Christians and Jews on college campuses. It was Charlie who helped bring online censorship, free speech, and cancel culture to the fore of our political debate. He was right up there with me. It was Charlie who helped unite MAGA, and you know what MAHA is? That's right, Make America Healthy Again. And tomorrow we're going to have one of the biggest announcements, really medically, I think, in the history of our country. We're going to be doing it with Bobby and Oz and all of the professionals. I think you're going to find it to be amazing. I think we found an answer to autism. How about that? Autism. Tomorrow we're going to be talking in the Oval Office in the White House about autism, how it happens, so we won't let it happen anymore, and how to get at least somewhat better when you have it, so that parents can help their child, their beautiful child. That's a big one. I've been bugging everybody over there, get the answer to that. You know, 20 years ago, 1 in 10,000 were born with autism. 20 years ago, the most recent survey says 1 in 12. How bad is that? That's for young boys, baby boys, but also girls, a little bit better. It's about 1 in 20. But we can't, because obviously there was something really wrong, and we think we know what that is. It's going to be, I think it's going to be one of the most important news conferences I'll ever have, and I look so forward to it. I look forward to it because he knew. I'd tell him a little bit about what was going on. Was Charlie, he would have been front row center, believe me. We'll be missing him tomorrow. It was such a big deal for him, too. He brought together Donald Trump, Bobby Kennedy, right here in the great state of Arizona 1 year ago. Remember that? What a night, what a day that was. And it was Charlie who was among the first to speak to me about a man from Ohio by the name of J.D. Vance. Have you ever heard of him? He's doing a good job. But Charlie would often call me, sometimes the night before a big event, the other side of the country. And he'd ask me, he'd say, do you think you could come and speak at the event? The following day, right? I'd say, Charlie, I'm the President of the United States. You want me to travel 4 hours by plane? And you know, sometimes I did it. He was a very good guy. He was a very convincing guy. He didn't stop, but he would ask for things like that. Sir, could you be tomorrow in California? I said, Charlie, give me a break, please. He just wouldn't stop. And he succeeded. But I almost always went because you never wanted to let Charlie down. He worked so hard. You just didn't want to let him down. I felt guilty. It'd make me feel very guilty. As president, many people asked me for things, but Charlie was one of the few who always gave more than he took. He was a giver, much more than a taker. And no matter how big Charlie became, no one was too small for him to notice. He was good to everybody. Didn't matter. Several years ago, a fourth grader asked Charlie to appear on his podcast, which was probably only watched by the parents of that fourth grader. And Charlie, who was actually pretty hot at the time, to be honest, he agreed, and the boy asked for advice. Charlie replied, the left. I call it the radical left. I call it sometimes the radical left lunatics. But Charlie didn't say that. He called it the left. He was probably right, but I can't help it. I can't help it. So he said the left, radical left lunatics, may have all the money in the world, but they can never outwork me. I will wake up as early as I need to about himself. I will stay up as late as I need to, and I will never stop fighting for our country. And he did this until his dying breath. That's what he was doing. That's what he was doing. Think of it. Wow. What a horrible moment. I was in the Oval Office when I heard they came in, and it was like a surreal experience, a terrible. I had some very big people in the Oval Office, and I was in the midst of a very important conversation for our country. Big people, the biggest. And I said, you have to leave now. When they told me that, they told me in front of a group of very powerful people. I said, you have to leave now, right now, please. Right now. You have to leave. Go. By his own determination and skill, Charlie Kirk built Turning Point from his humble beginnings, the beginnings that nobody believed could ever end up something like this, into a great movement and a juggernaut of American politics. And, you know, we have a massive stadium loaded up with people, but he got tremendous crowds before he had this kind of horrible news and before we had to hear what happened so terribly. He delivered more than 250 speeches a year at over 200 colleges and universities, and that was at a time when it was not really vogue to go to colleges and universities if you were a conservative. It really took great courage. And we used to talk, and I said, you know, I think they're much more conservative than we know. And he agreed, but it just wasn't something that was happening because the radical left would do very bad things, very dangerous things. But Charlie set up chapters on 2,200 campuses and spoke at more than 1,000 churches. He launched a podcast and radio show that grew to an audience of 1 million Americans a day, one of the bigger shows on radio. And Charlie didn't just bring young people into the movement. All of a sudden, it started to grow by leaps and bounds. By 2024, we won more young people than any Republican candidate in the history of our country, including, for the first time, a majority of males under 30. Can you believe it? Remember when Republican presidential candidates would get 4%? No, we did unbelievably with young people, and he was a big, big factor. Unbelievable. But he made me work for it. Sir, you have to make a speech here, you have to make a speech there. But we did it, and we won, and our country is doing unbelievably well now. We had a country that was dead 1 year ago, and now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. And Charlie helped us make it that. One of the great people. But through it all, the core of Charlie's message and his basic method never changed. It never really changed. He stayed the same person also. At every campus event, Charlie asked the people who disagreed with him to come forward, and instead of silencing them, he handed them a microphone and let them speak. And he'd convinced so many of them. It was a pretty amazing thing to watch, actually. Shortly before Charlie arrived on campus, the day he was assassinated, a staff member texted him that there were many critics and students who were opposed to his views, and rather strenuously in the crowd. And that actually made him feel good, because he wanted to convince them. He understood. He really did. He understood what was right, and he was right about that. A lot of it was based on common sense, by the way. Charlie wrote back to the staff member saying, "I'm not here to fight them. I want to know them and love them, and I want to reach them and try and lead them into a great way of life in our country." In that private moment on his dying day, we find everything we need to know about who Charlie Kirk truly was. He was a missionary with a noble spirit and a great, great purpose. He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent. Charlie's angry. Look at that. He's angry at me now. He wasn't interested in demonizing anyone. He was interested in persuading everyone to the ideas and principles he believed were good, right, and true. Before each appearance, he prayed these words: "God, use me for your will." Always said the same thing: use me for your will. And that is exactly what God did. When you think, that's exactly what he did. The more success Charlie had, and he was getting more and more successful, the more dangerous his mission became. On campuses all over the country, his quest for open dialogue was met with menacing hate. There were bomb threats, pulled fire alarms, and countless rage-filled radicals who tried to shout him down. It was nasty. I used to say, "Charlie, this is nasty stuff you're doing." At one event, police had to build barricades to protect students from an angry mob of thugs. Many of these people, by the way, are paid a lot of money to do this. They're agitators. They're paid agitators. Remember that? When you see they all have the same beautifully printed sign, every sign is identical, comes out of a top-level print shop. That's not the signs that are made in somebody's basement. Those are paid for by very bad people, and hopefully we're going to be finding out through the DOJ who those people are. At another college, Antifa terrorists shattered windows, threw rocks, and tried to storm the building where Charlie was speaking. It was a really bad one. Often dozens of police officers were needed to prevent left-wing violence. And the violence comes largely from the left. You don't hear that from too many people, do you? And virtually every day for years before he was murdered, Charlie received these horrible death threats. People don't know. I used to talk to him about it. He said, I got some threats. He always felt that when they actually made the threat, they were not the ones to worry about. The ones to worry about were the ones that don't make the threats. And I think you know what I mean. He knew the risk, but he and I shared a certain motto, never back down and never ever surrender. Just don't surrender, never back down. He believed in it so strongly. So strongly. And he's right. He's totally right. The radicals and their allies in the media, sometimes referred to, as my son said, the fake news media, tried to silence Charlie for a simple reason, because he was winning, and he was winning big. He was taking over college campuses, colleges that had, in theory, only very liberal, or as they like to say, progressive. I call them liberal, but they like to call themselves, because such a beautiful word, progressive. They're the opposite of progressive, if you think about it. But they were really nasty, and he would go into these colleges. All of a sudden, within 2 years, 3 years, they turned into bastions of conservatism. It was really quite amazing to see. They lied about him because they did not want you to listen to him or to learn from him, because what he was talking about and even preaching made so much sense. Everywhere he went, he won the debates, he won the hearts, he won the minds, and yes, he won the elections for people. He helped us, he helped other people. We won the biggest election in the history of our country, I believe. Charlie Kirk was without a doubt among the most influential figures in the most important election in the history of our country. The election of, that beautiful day, November 5th, 2024. Do you remember that day? It was 9 months ago. What a day that was. I mean, we had a pretty good day in the first one. And I must tell you, on the second one, we had a phenomenal day. But a lot of bad things happened. And now that's not even questioned. They cheated like dogs. But we got them back, didn't we, huh? Got them back. We owe Charlie a profound and eternal debt of gratitude now. Just like Charlie and Erica made Turning Point hot, we are looking at a country that has the chance to attain a level like never before. Tariffs are making us rich again, richer than anybody ever thought was possible. And the only one challenging them are people that hate our country or foreign countries that are paying a price, because they did the same thing to us for years. They took advantage of us, but we're making money. We're becoming richer and richer. And we're taking care of our people better and better when we do that. And we can take care of other countries better and better. But we're doing unbelievably well. The tariffs have really been a hold. The election was big. But the tariffs, because of the election, came in. And remember, other nations do that to us. And Charlie understood that. He saw the money. He saw what was coming into our country, and we can use that for Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, all of these things that we fight so hard for. And that's exactly what's happening. The numbers are incredible. When the news finally came out on election night last November that the race was officially won, came out pretty early in the night. Charlie was live on camera. In that moment, he was overcome with emotion. I've never seen him like this. He was so happy. For a long while, he said nothing. His eyes were filled with tears, and then he buried his face in his hands and he started crying. That wasn't the Charlie I knew, but in thinking about it, it actually was the Charlie I knew, because he had a tremendous heart. He just wanted what was good for our country, and he saw us going in such a horrible direction. Lovingly, Eric, And this was so beautiful. Erica put a MAGA hat on to cover his bowed head. I like that very much. MAGA, we love. Does everybody love MAGA? Make America great again. When Joe Biden used to get up, remember the speeches? We will stop MAGA. We will stop MAGA. You know, he could barely get the words out. We will stop. I said, can somebody inform him that MAGA means make America great again? How do you say you're going to stop it? And Charlie understood that. When Charlie finally looked up and spoke, he smiled through the watery eyes and simply said, I am humbled by God's grace. That was his statement that night. I was watching him. I was very impressed, actually. It showed he had a big heart. Every single American should take a long, hard look at the twisted soul and dark spirit of anyone who would want to kill a young man as good as Charlie, to kill anybody.
और बेज़ाब्तगियों के खिलाफ
पाकिस्तानी टीम होटल से ग्राउंड की जानिब नहीं जा रही।
पाकिस्तान टीम फौरी तौर पर स्टेडियम के लिए रवाना नहीं हो रही।
पाकिस्तान टीम के जो जायज मुतालबात थे उनको नहीं माना गया।
इतना एंटी पाकिस्तानी सेंटिमेंट आईसीसी की तरफ से भी दिखाई दिया।
जैसे ही ग्रीन सिग्नल उनको मिलेगा तो यहाँ से टीम जो है वो दुबई क्रिकेट स्टेडियम की तरफ रवाना होगी।
1 घंटा आगे बढ़ा दिया गया है।
टीम बाहर बातचीत मुशावरत जारी है, मुज़ाकरात जारी है।
टीम होटल से बाहर आ गई है। टीम को तैयार रहने का कहा गया था।
बाइकॉट से मुआफी के ऐलान तक
रवाना हो रही है। पाकिस्तानी
ये वो तारीख की मंजिल।
बस में सवार है। टीम हमारी सवार है बस में। बस पहुंचने ही वाली है।
गेट के सामने खड़ा हूँ जहाँ पर पाकिस्तान टीम की बस आकर रुकेगी।
मैच रेफरी एंडी पाइक्रॉफ ने माफी मांग ली है।
मैच रेफरी ने हमारे टीम मैनेजर, टीम कैप्टन और हेड कोच से माजरत की है। ताला ने पाकिस्तान की इज्जत एक दफा फिर उसी तरह रखी जिस तरह कौम तवक्को कर रही थी।
उन्होंने सियासत खेली है, हमने सियासत नहीं खेली। हमने स्पोर्ट्समैन स्पिरिट का इजहार किया है।
एंडी पाइक्रॉफ जो है ना, वो खास जब भी कोई भारतीय मैच होता है तो उनके वो फेवरेट 90 टाइम्स इंडिया के मैच में वो मैच रेफरी है।
हमेशा की तरह जियो न्यूज रहा इस अहम मामले में सबसे आगे और पहुंचाई हर खबर सबसे पहले आप तक।
आईसीसी ने मैच रेफरी को हटाने की पाकिस्तान की दरख्वास्त मुस्तरद कर दी।
हम जंग को जंग समझते हैं और खेल को खेल समझते हैं।
मैच में होना चाहिए, नहीं होना चाहिए।
पाकिस्तान का कंप्लेन करना बनता था।
शर्मनाक हरकत थी इंडिया की तरफ से।
कुछ भी नहीं हुआ होता तो क्यों पाइक्रॉफ को हेडक्वार्टर्स बुलाया जाता?
हर जगह हर वक्त आपके लिए, आपके साथ सिर्फ जियो न्यूज। जियो हेडलाइन न्यूज के लिए ताउन किया है
मैजिकल क्रीम की डबल ट्रीट।
Short delivery first up and it's picked up beautiful. Waited, had so much time. Sensible batting. Set that one very high indeed. How far is that one?
Where's this ball sailing to?
That's picked away. India home and dry. 174 for 4. They win by 6 wickets.
एशिया कप सुपर 4 मरहले में भारत ने पाकिस्तान को 6 विकेट से हरा दिया। पाकिस्तान का 171 रन का हदफ भारत ने 7 गेंदें कबल हासिल कर लिया। अभिषेक शर्मा और शुभमन गिल ने पहली विकेट पर 105 रन की इनिंग्स खेली। पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ T20 में सबसे बड़ा हदफ हासिल किया। अभिषेक शर्मा 74 और शुभमन गिल 47 रन बनाकर नुमाया रहे। इवेंट में आज आराम का दिन है। मंगल को पाकिस्तान का मुकाबला श्रीलंका से होगा। भारत मैच के दौरान बाउंड्री लाइन पर खड़े पाकिस्तानी बॉलर हारिस रऊफ पर भारतीय तमाशाइयों की हूटिंग। हारिस रऊफ का हाथ के इशारे से भारतीय राफेल जंगी जहाज गिराए जाने की नकल उतारकर जवाब। पाकिस्तानी तमाशाइयों ने राफेल राफेल के नारे लगाए। वजीर दिफा ख्वाजा आसिफ ने सोशल मीडिया पर बयान में कहा कि हारिस रऊफ ठीक टकराया। क्रिकेट मैच तो होते रहते हैं, लेकिन 6-0 की हजीमत भारत कयामत तक नहीं भूलेगा, दुनिया भी याद रखेगी। वज़ीर आज़म शहबाज शरीफ आज से 26 सितंबर तक अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा की जनरल असम्बली के इजलास में शिरकत करेंगे। इस दौरान आला सतह की तकरीबात और खुसूसी इजलासों में शरीक होंगे। तर्जुमान दफ्तर खारजे के मुताबिक वज़ीर आज़म इस्लामी ममालिक के रहनुमाओं के हमरा अमरीकी सदर से मुलाकात भी करेंगे। शहबाज शरीफ की आलमी रहनुमाओं और अक़वाम मुत्तहिदा के हुक्काम से दो तरफा मुलाकातें भी होंगी। बरतानिया, कनाडा और ऑस्ट्रेलिया ने फलस्तीन को आजाद रियासत तस्लीम कर लिया। पुर्तगाल ने भी फलस्तीन को बाज़ाब्ता तौर पर रियासत तस्लीम कर लिया। कहा, 2 रियासती हल ही खित्ते में पायदार अमन का वाहिद रास्ता है। इसराइली वज़ीर आज़म नेतन्याहू की हठधर्मी बरकरार। कहा, कोई फलस्तीनी रियासत नहीं बनेगी। मगरबी किनारे में यहूदी आबादकारी के इक़दामात जारी रहेंगे। लाहौर केनाल रोड पर तेज रफ्तार मोटरसाइकिल पोल से टकरा गई। हादसे में मोटरसाइकिल सवार 2 नौजवान जाँ बहक हो गए। कराची मलीर काला बोर्ड के करीब फायरिंग से सहाफी इम्तियाज मीर जख्मी, अस्पताल मुंतकिल। पुलिस के मुताबिक फायरिंग मोटरसाइकिल सवार खातून और मर्द ने की और फरार हो गए। इम्तियाज मीर के सीने और चेहरे पर गोली लगी। वाक़े की जगह से गोलियों के 2 खौल मिले। और सऊदी कौमी दिन की मुनासबत से दारुल हुकूमत रियाद से 150 किलोमीटर सहरा में ऑफ रोड जीप रैली का एहतमाम। पाकिस्तान और सऊदी अरब के परचम लहराए गए। हालिया मुआहिदे और सऊदी कौमी दिन की खुशी में केक भी काटा गया।
मैजिकल क्रीम वाला नया बिग फ्रीज रियल ओवर मैजिकल क्रीम की डबल ट्रीट।
मजीद खबरों और अपडेट्स के लिए देखते रहिए जियो न्यूज।
अरसे बाद इतनी सारी खवातीन के फोटो पे मेरा नाम आया। हज़रात खुशामदीद, आप देख रहे हैं हस्ता मनाए। मैं हूं ताबिश हाशमी। उम्मीद करता हूं आप सब खैरियत से होंगे। हमारे कराची स्पेशल में आज इंतहाई स्पेशल मेहमान, ये वो है जो शायद आर्गुएबली पाकिस्तान के सबसे बड़े